Chapter 7 Shadows of the Past AD 1166, 21st August.
You are not ready yet.
Ah yes, there was that echo again. One could imagine it like the call of a person from a great distance behind oneself. Whereby, however, the sixth sense said that this person actually stood directly behind one, but if one turned around to make sure, it dissolved into intangible mist. So felt the wanderer with these words, spoken by a woman whose voice carried the tone as if they were a warm invitation to the gates of heaven. He would have liked to know what he was not yet ready for, but none of his words were given wings. They too had to remain as prisoners in his heart. All he knew was that he was familiar with that voice, and that even reached to the dark times in Aston, where he not only spent the first years of his life, but also thought he had gotten to know the person. Only this encounter, this person, actually, to him they seemed to find no place in his memories of Aston, or anywhere else for that matter. A small child wrapped in grey rags walked along a gravel path with a struggling step. The village slept under the twinkling, clear canopy of stars, and the 3 moons cast a silver mantle on the slumbering houses. Of these, only a few still shone a warm glow of candles and fires on the paths. From one of them the child was attracted, like a moth to the light, though with what a sense of well-being it could beckon, in spite of all fears and worries, if one had to be the forced guest of a long winter night. A tepid breeze swirled up some of the thick blanket of snow, making the flakes glisten in the glow of the moons. The smoke coming from the chimney fascinated the child. How much heat must be in there for the house to start coughing like that, he wondered. Now the little fist raised. The skin on its knuckles and fingertips had already turned bluish and even ruptured in some places, where it either gave way to new skin or revealed a wound. The beat of his heart stumbled as he heard himself finally knocking on the door. Why was it so loud? It seemed to him like the pommel of a sword striking against his peaceful dwelling. Inside, a chair could now be heard scraping across the floor, followed by footsteps coming towards him. The door opened with a squeaky creak, and in front of him stood a rotund man with glasses and a mustache. From his father, the boy knew that people with glasses must be wealthier, since not everyone could afford one. It increased his daring hope that maybe something was left over for someone like him. From inside, a cozy warmth hit him, so much that he would have liked to run past the man to throw himself in front of the fireplace. There, he would have rubbed his hands together and occasionally held them in front of the flames until they felt like his again. Surely there was even a blanket he could snuggle into that was dry to boot.
A lad?
Asked the man, whose buttons on his closed waistcoat were valiantly and unthankfully trying to hold the fabric together.
At this time of night? What do you want here, say?
The child stole another glance into the family home, as if hunger, frost, and weariness could be silenced by that alone. Another boy sat at the table, a head shorter than himself, but already with his father's figure. Right now he was in the embrace of his loving mother, who had earlier glanced fleetingly at the door. How would that have felt? This child must certainly have been extra sweet to receive such attention. Surely it had done its course brilliantly and not failed.
Speak up already!
The boy flinched. Right, he himself was still standing outside the door. If he wanted in, he would probably have to do something about it. He got down on his knees and, interlocking his fingers, asked,
I hate to disturb you, but may I trouble you with my presence? I am cold and hungry. I would after that also.
No, I'm sorry, but listen. I can't let just anyone in here. How do I know what diseases you carry?
The boy sprang to his feet as fast as he could, to show how quick-witted he could be. In doing so, however, he has also looked up far enough that the man could now see the scar above the child's left eye.
It's you!
The man already had the door in his right hand when the child raised his, begging for a moment.
Please let me.
Back? For permission to steal you or what? You are the layabouts they are looking for around here for the stolen nose.
No.
And now you're lying too? Haven't you been taught any decency at all? Don't you know what happens to the likes of you when Foreign's hour has come to judge?
Yes, my father.
Certainly very disappointed, and the one whose nerves you should be getting. Why are you here? Go to him.
I just wanted...
Trying it at my place, right? You must be working with a bunch of thieves.
He stepped out a little further and suddenly had a hatchet in his hand.
Where do you hang out, eh? Don't you dare come near my family and get off my land and property.
The axe pointed at the boy's nose.
And you keep your hands to yourself, and get the hell out of here before I send the militia after you.
The door slammed shut. Before long, the biting cold had devoured the last bit of warmth and left him with nothing. Even though his father had taught him better, he couldn't help the impudence of crying. He didn't even know why it hurt so much that he had to cry, but his lack of understanding was perhaps even more annoying to him. A man was supposed to be strong. No wonder he wasn't allowed to sit in a house like this or be taken in somebody's arms. They were right, after all. He was a miserable failure, and that was exactly why he had to peep through the window once more, so that he could at least eat his fill by looking. The child there was taking a bite from a chicken egg, fat running down the corner of his mouth. Steam rose from the meat. The desire to knock once more stirred in him. Could he dare do it one more time? But then his eyes crossed with those of the man who had spotted him through the window. He had stood up so sharply that the chair toppled over backwards to the floor. The child fled headlong. He did not want to wait and find out what would happen if the man opened the door and caught him.
Good,
said the innkeeper, nodding with satisfaction.
You work hard, I like that.
He patted the boy approvingly on the shoulder. It had not turned out to be a mistake to take this ragamuffin under his wing. He was even able to dismiss the last guy who had swept and cleaned the place. All the boy wanted was a meal for his work, and that was what he was going to get, in addition to everything the guests left over from their orders. The child sat at a table on a chair where he could not put his feet on the floor. Being served a warm soup made him so happy that he even dangled his legs. He had never dreamed that he would have a place where food was served regularly, and sometimes he was even luckier and people left a piece of bread, salami or cheese. Yesterday he had been offered a sip of beer, the stuff he saw the adults drinking all the time. But it was bitter, and the only thing it did for him was not an incitement to joy, but a sticking out of his tongue with an "Ugh." It seemed one had to be an adult to know what was great about it.
Look at him, Lena,
the innkeeper said to his maid, who was in a green dress made especially to bring out sales-promoting curves.
He is gobbling it up like there's no tomorrow.
Wouldn't that rather get you down?
She asked in a bored voice.
What?
Never mind.
Lena, what you need to understand is that there's a smart business tactic to be beaten out of this.
Uh-huh.
Can't you see how the boy is gobbling?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're just a woman. What do you know about such things? I even have to explain it to you explicitly. First, a certain someone treats people badly, in our case, the child here, until they even come crawling to you for a cup of water, in our case, the child here. Then you come along, the savior, but in reality you work together with this certain someone and treat the victim well, whereupon it feels indebted to you. And out of this stupid sense of honor, because poor people seem to have nothing else in currency, it will serve you, and for a small wage because it considers it much through the previous suffering.
What?
The innkeeper looked to her now. She was sitting on the chair, had one leg crossed over the other and was looking at her fingernails. He looked at her and said nothing more, just shook his head.
What do you know?
He finally remarked and looked back at the child, who was just about to slurp the last of the food from the bowl.
In this case, I was even lucky that the guy came to me. I didn't even need a network of lowlifes. But he gave me the idea to establish one.
The boy also licked the rim and the spoon so clean that one would think it had never come into contact with soup. As he was checking the rim of the bowl for something that might have gone unnoticed, the man put a hand on his shoulder. In the other he had the knife with the handle pointed towards him.
Listen, what do you say you and I have a talk, huh?